Hi, it's Penny here. Welcome to another reading vlog. This particular reading vlog, I'm going to be focusing on reading the Crescent City books. So I've previously read A House of Earth and Blood, but I'm going to reread that. And then I've also got the audiobook for House of Sky and Breath. I'm a little bit worried because, Sarah J. Maas, not normally one of my favorite authors, but last year or the year before when I read House of Earth and Blood, also an audiobook, I really enjoyed it. In fact, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I do think part of that is that the audiobooks are very well narrated, but I had a fun time. Like, it's nothing too serious, and there are a lot of things that Sarah J. Maas does with her writing that I do find a little bit annoying, but overall I really enjoyed the story. However, I haven't heard great things about House of Sky and Breath, so I'm trying not to get my hopes up, and we'll see how we go. Now, both of these audiobooks are like 27-hour audiobooks, so it's a lot to get through, and we have actually decided we're going to go camping for a few days tomorrow, so I'm not sure I'm going to get through it this week, but maybe we'll just extend this reading vlog into the next week a little bit until we do finish it. And I think I have already actually listened to about 10 hours of the first one just on my run last night, and then today while I've been doing a bit of housework. I actually last week ended up emptying out my whole wardrobe because there was a random thing beeping in it. Turned out to be a smoke alarm that I'd forgotten about when I couldn't install it, and I put it in the wardrobe. Anyway, it started beeping, and so in finding it, I took half the things out of my wardrobe and I decided to finish it off, and now I have a big pile of clothes to sort out before I put it back in. So I've been listening to my audiobooks while I do some of that organization, and I've managed to get through about 10 hours. I have to say I'm actually really enjoying the reread as well, knowing what actually happened with the big thing that happens near the start of the book. Actually gives you quite a few insights into all the foreshadowing. Definitely everything that Danik is doing at the start of the book, I'm like, oh, is that, I know what's happening. Whereas you don't really get any of that on a first read. So I'm really enjoying that. As well, a lot of Hunt assuming that Bryce is just a stupid party girl and you knowing what she's actually up to. That's enjoyable as well. So I haven't really talked about what this book series is about. I feel like it's very talked about on the internet, so probably everyone knows, but if you don't know, it's basically an urban fantasy. We've got this girl named Bryce who's a party girl, but she ends up getting involved in this murder investigation, and this angel Hunt is assigned to watch out for her, be like her bodyguard, and help her with the investigation as well. As I was saying, he assumes she's just a stupid party girl. But he's not, right? Of course, Bryce knows what she's doing. Sometimes it's a little bit cheesy, sometimes it's a little bit convenient, but I am having a great time. As well, there's a lot of world building in this series, and it's done through like very quick one-liners. And I know on my first read, I actually just like skipped over a lot of that and didn't even bother trying to understand it. But I'm finding on my second read, I'm understanding a lot more of those things as well. So those two books are going to be my audiobooks that I am reading. As well, I've got these two. I've just remembered I've got another book as well. Where is it? It's over here. Hang on. So firstly, I've got The Gathering Storm by Kate Elliott. This is the 5th book in the Crown of Stars series that I've been reading for a very long time. I think the previous book in the series took me about 6 months, but this one, I'm going to try and get through it this month. Is it doable? I don't know. I read a little bit of it last night. 15 pages to be precise, so maybe this one's not going to be quick either, but I'm going to try. This is like an epic fantasy where there's a lot of stuff going on. Wars, celestial prophecies, dark magic, pathways through the stars. It's hard to talk about. The bit I read last night was basically this eagle who's like one of the king's messengers, and she in the last book went through some quite traumatic events. She was kidnapped by these people that have like mechanical wings and also use this dark kind of magic. So she's quite traumatized by that, and that's making her pretty unhappy. They didn't really get any further than that so far, but I'm going to try. As well, tonight I'm probably going to pick up Extraordinary by B. Schwab. This is like a comic book collection set in the world of Vicious, where people have these different abilities, superpower type stuff. I don't really know what these comics are going to be about, but I'll probably read that tonight. And then I think my camping book is going to be Where the Drowned Girls Go by Seanan McGuire. So this, I think, is the 7th book in the Wayward Children series, which is all about these children that go through doors to magical worlds and then come back to the real world. Some of them really want to go back and find their magical worlds again, but this particular book I believe is set in this school where people who've come back from the magical worlds very traumatized and are really afraid of going back to their magical worlds can find like some peace. I don't really know, but definitely a good camping book because it's small and it should be easy to read. So I'm going to pack that. That's why it was over there, so that I don't forget to pack it. Watch me put it back here and then forget to take it. No, I'll keep holding it. So that's a bunch of things that I want to read. I am actually right now going to go shopping for some replacement batteries for that stupid smoke alarm and have another go at installing it. And while I do that, I will keep listening to House of Earth and Blood.
Pick it up from the top, hit restart. So far it's been so hard to live, but lately something in me changed. Let it go, let it be. Don't fight your way back in. Let me go, let me be. It's time that we begin. Welcome to a new life. Dripping in gold, that's nice. Welcome to a new life. Everything feels so right till I opened up my eyes. I thought I was defeated, but all I ever needed was just a little space and time to open up the ceiling, a different kind of healing. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. Yeah. Already hanging by a thread with my world turned upside down. Gravity shook my bed and I tumbled out. Heavy weight landed on my face, still unfazed, 'cause I have my day. Welcome to a new life. Dripping in gold, that's nice. Welcome to a new life. Everything feels so right until I open up my eyes. Thought I was defeated, but all I ever needed was a little space and time to open up the ceiling, a different kind of healing. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I feel alive. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I feel alive. Feel it. I can feel it. If you set yourself on fire, I never let you burn. I would smoke you till my lungs hurt and love you till I'm dirt. I'm not sure where all this goes. What I do know is I'll never let you go. When my world is falling apart, you're always there first.
Hello. So try not to look at me because I feel like my face is having a bit of a meltdown, and also I have serious doubts about my decision to cut this fringe since I really have no idea what to do with a fringe. How do you make it keep looking good? What do I even want it to look like? I don't know. I think it was a bad idea, but we'll see whether I can get used to it, I guess. Anyway, we have got back from camping now. It was just a lovely time, not really doing much of anything, just wandering around the beaches, and we realised that we haven't actually been up north along any of those lovely beaches since before COVID. So it was nice to go back there and just visit some really nice beaches and not have to do anything. I will say though, it's getting into winter here now, like it's end of May, I guess, so winter's kind of June-ish. Not fully winter yet, but it was still pretty cold in the evenings. The sun goes down very early, so we were always having to make dinner really early. And then in the morning it would be really cold. You wouldn't want to get out of bed. So I'm not sure if we're going to go camping again now until after winter. But I guess we'll see what happens, but probably it's going to be getting too cold. But I did want to update you on my reading. So just before we went camping, I did actually read Extraordinary by V. Schwab, this graphic novel comic bind-up. I had pretty low expectations of this based on the reviews I'd seen, but actually it was okay. It was a little bit weird because it kind of tries to like cover the whole plot line of the book Vicious in about 3 pages. Which obviously had to leave out a lot of things. And so I don't know if you hadn't read Vicious, whether that would even make any sense to you. But you kind of do need it because this main character in this comic is this girl who can see people's deaths. And some of what she's seeing does relate to Victor and Eli. So as a reader, you need to know about them for like the final kind of cliffhanger to make any sense. But also, does that 3 pages give you enough for it to make much sense? I'm not sure. So basically, this girl gets involved with some other EOs who are trying to break out one of their friends from captivity. It was okay, probably nothing like mind-blowing, but I still enjoyed it. The other thing that I was reading while we were camping is I was reading Where the Drowned Girls Go, and I think I'm about just past halfway. I'm going to try and finish this tonight. So in this one, basically one of the characters that we already know is really struggling with what happened in the previous book, and so she decides to go to this other school where they try to make you forget the magical doors that you went through. But honestly, it's a really awful place. It does seem like as well... Oh, actually, the events I'm talking about I think happened in the book before that one, because the book after that was this girl going to this world with all these magical horses, and we get that girl in this as well. So basically, a lot of girls who have had these magical experiences and now they're being forced to forget it, and some of them want to forget it, but some of them also are not entirely there voluntarily. And also, some of the kind of methods the school is using to make them forget things is questionable. So it's interesting enough. One thing that is frustrating me about this is our main character is a fat girl, and there's a lot about, I guess, fat phobia in here, but I do think it oversimplifies things a little bit. It keeps going on about how our main character has nothing wrong with her, that, you know, she's just a fat girl, that's what she is naturally, that she eats healthily, she's physically active, she's so... I like the message that just because you're fat, there isn't necessarily anything wrong with you. Sometimes it's just the way you are and there's nothing wrong with it. And you're not deserving of judgment or criticism from other people. But also, even if you're fat and there is something wrong with you, like you are doing something wrong or you are unhealthy for some reason, like you still don't deserve criticism. And I don't feel like this book is really making that clear. It's kind of making out like Cora, our main character, gets away with not deserving that criticism because she's so perfect in terms of her physical health. But like unhealthy people don't deserve judgment. You don't know what's going on in their life. Weight and health are very complicated things. It's just, yeah, I feel like it's a little bit oversimplified and the message does annoy me a little bit sometimes. But I am enjoying the story in the actual school, although it's kind of slow, and I feel like a lot of these Wayward Children books, not much actually happens in the story. They're really just a little bit too short for me. I would love to get like a proper, fat, fully explored story in the Wayward Children's world or worlds, but I'm not sure if we're ever going to get it. But anyway, I guess I will finish this off tonight. I have also been listening to House of Earth and Blood. I actually made Jace listen to a little bit and he was like, what on earth are you listening to? But it is a lot of fun. Like, sure, some bits are a bit silly, but the character relationships are well written. There's a good story in there. Like, the plot is actually quite interesting. One of my big criticisms before is that the way Sarah J Maas often does her twists is that one of the characters will know a thing but they won't tell you even though you've been in that character's head. However, rereading it, I can see that a lot of the times where it would make sense for one of our characters to think about one of the things that they know that we don't know. Often in those parts, you're getting a different character's perspective. So that's why you don't know those things. I still don't entirely like the way it's done. But also in this reread, I am picking up on a lot more clues. So, maybe my criticism wasn't entirely justified. Maybe. As well, one thing that Sarah J Maas does really well is that she doesn't just have her characters live through really awful things, but she really does explore the effects of that trauma. Like, her characters aren't just bulletproof. After they go through these awful things, they really do feel terrible. And I like that. It's much more realistic. And I think it's good for people to read stories where people go through trauma and then learn to heal. So, I am enjoying it. I think I've got about 8 hours to go, so I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I'm going to try and finish that off today and tomorrow, I think. Then I can get to House of Sky and Breath, which I'm so nervous about. Because especially, like, I've enjoyed this reread of House of Earth and Blood so much that, like, I can feel my hopes for a House of Sky and Breath rising, and I need to pull them back down because I really have not heard that rising hopes are justified. But anyway, I've been trying to catch up on some video stuff today, so I better go and finish up that, and then I'll catch up with you guys again probably tomorrow. Hello, so I still don't know if I like this Fringe, but at least I've turned it into some kind of Fringe-like thing. And I think I worked out my skin went funny because I used wet wipes to clean it while we were camping. And I remember it went like that once before and I probably did the same thing. So, won't do that again. Also, I think I know how to deal with it. So, thank goodness I can become a human. So, I did want to update you on my reading because I finished off a couple of things since I last talked to you. Firstly, I finished reading Where the Drowned Girls Go. And like, it was not too bad. There were some elements I really liked. What I will say is with the series all the time, I wish there was a little bit more depth to things. I wish that these books were longer and it would explore the ideas more fully, but it never does. So that's very frustrating. But I have seen the next book has something to do with the Lost and Found. There is a character who went to the land of Lost and Found, so I wouldn't be surprised if she's involved. But also, in this one, there was kind of an element of lost memories, and that's one of the parts I would have loved to have had more fully explored, and so I'm hoping the next book will explore some of it. Oh, but also in this book, there was one section where it almost seemed like it was condoning murder. And again, because it didn't really like go into any depth of what it was saying, it just kind of like glossed over this idea that maybe in some circumstances it would be okay to kill people, but it didn't really like explain when that might be. And this is a middle grade book. Like, is it not dangerous to put the idea in middle grade people that sometimes it's okay to kill people and not tell, like, fully talk it through, like, that would be very rare and exceptional cases, not just like you don't like someone so they probably deserve it. Like, that was a little bit concerning to me. But I was thinking about this series and where I would rank this one in the series. So I think the order that I would put this series in is Down Among the Sticks and Bones, In an Absent Dream, Every Hearted Doorway, then probably this one, Where the Drowned Girls Go, then Across the Green Grass Fields, then Beneath the Sugar Sky, and then lastly Come Tumbling Down because I really didn't like that one. I was so disappointed in it. So like this one, strictly in the middle. It was okay. I just, as always, am left wanting more than this book actually gave me. Anyway, The other thing that I also did while I was getting ready this morning is I finished off listening to House of Earth and Blood. Of course, this is a reread, so I knew what was going to happen. One thing I had forgotten is there is one bit where there's like a massive monologue from the villain explaining everything that he'd done and why he'd done it and how things they thought had happened hadn't been actually how they thought. It was actually him. And like, it was such a long monologue. I was like, dude, can you just shut up? But also, like, why did it have to be explained through such a long monologue? Couldn't it have been made obvious from the way the story was told? So that monologue was not my favorite. As well, I will say the final events, like, I remember it just kind of like escalating, and it didn't quite feel like that on a reread because I already knew kind of all the twists and turns of the ending. It was still fun. I enjoyed it, but I think the ending is best on the first read. But then I do think my reading journey of the whole story was better when I knew what was happening and like where they were being misguided all along the way. But overall, I had a lot of fun on that reread, and now I'm going to go return my library books at lunchtime, and during that I will start House of Sky and Breath. I am so nervous for it. I'm really afraid I'm going to hate it, which after just having so much fun with House of Earth and Blood is going to be really annoying. Maybe I won't hate it. I really hope I don't hate it. So I'll start that. Also tonight I will probably start reading Cytonic by Brandon Sanderson. So this is the third book in the Skyward series. Basically, humans have been stuck on this planet, and anytime they try to leave, they get attacked by aliens. We're mainly following this girl named Spencer who wants to join the Air Force and join the fight. But because of her family's bad reputation, she really struggles to be allowed to join. Obviously, in the third book, things have changed quite a lot. I'm not sure if I like the direction this series is going in, but there are elements that I'm interested in. So fingers crossed we'll get some of those things. I do sometimes struggle to get through these ones a little bit, so I'm hoping it won't take me too long to get through, but I guess we will see. Hello. So I don't actually know if you can tell in this live, but yesterday I was just annoyed with everything. I tried to film a video and I didn't like it for a lot of reasons. And part of it, though, was my hair. So I've actually dyed my hair, but I don't think that you can see it very well in this light. I actually put some purple in, and it really hasn't gone on my roots, and I don't expect it to last because purple often doesn't. And also I used the cheap dye again. And also right now I found myself going red in the face because my skin's still funny, and also I'm in the car and it's hot. So I should try and get to the point. I've come to the mall to try and get some other things that maybe will make me happier with my videos, but will they? Who really knows? I think I've decided I'm going to try and cut down the videos I'm doing and focus more on quality. So I was trying to do 3 videos a week, but actually it makes me feel like I'm always rushing and I don't have time to, like, I don't know, do other things, think about things. So we'll try 2 for a little while, maybe. Anyway, let me tell you about my reading. I am now 6 hours into House of Sky and Breath, and nothing has happened. It's like there are things happening, but they all feel like side plots. Like, what is the point of any of this? It's like Hunt and Bryce have decided not to have sex. So just like lots of sexual tension and like snapping at each other, which I don't like. And then there's like 3 different political marriages that different people are dealing with. There's this one girl, this half human who has some kind of powers that they're trying to track down, maybe some more secrets of Danica's. But like, it's all just kind of like mucking around. And I really thought, like, given how at the beginning of House of Earth and Blood, we had like this really dramatic event happen quite near the beginning, and then that really like kept everything moving from there. I really thought at the beginning, or near the beginning, something would happen that would like give the story momentum, but it hasn't. Nothing's happening. I don't know. Then in the evening, I picked up Cytonic, and this, I don't know. I don't think that I like the direction that Brandon Sanderson wants to take this series in. I kind of think it's a bit silly. Basically, the first 50 pages, Spencer is now in this place I can't tell you anything about, but it's very strange. And almost straight away, she runs into this guy who I just keep thinking of like as Indiana Jones. And there's like all these weird creatures, and it just, you know, it's just silly. And again, I read 60 pages, and like, what is really happening? We're going to go on this quest to this place, and is that going to be the whole book? Is it just going to be nonsense the whole book with no real point to it and nothing that really moves the plot forward? Is it? Because I don't really want to read that. So I guess I'm frustrated about everything I'm reading. I'm frustrated about my booktube videos. I'm frustrated because I'm spending time on those things and not doing other things. And like, that would be fine if these things were satisfying, but they're not. They're frustrating me. So, how annoying. I'm going to continue this tonight, I guess. But if it just continues on, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that series. Anyway, I'm at the mall. I should go do some shopping. Oh, I just remembered. I forgot to acknowledge my fringe. So like, I don't know. I just decided I don't know how to maintain a long fringe, and I can't even decide half the time if it looks good because it just doesn't look like me. So I've kind of just put it into like a side fringe, which feels much more like me. And I've left it. There's a few long bits in here, which would be better if I trimmed them a little bit for a side fringe, but I've left them long because they are better when it's a front fringe. So I can always go back. But yeah, that was frustrating me too. So I got rid of it. For now, at least. Hello. So look at me trying to be productive and filming again. And while I was here, I thought I'd update this reading vlog. This is turning into a terrible week of reading. Last week, the first kind of half of this reading vlog, I was having a great time. House of Earth and Blood was fun. Where the Drowned Girls Go wasn't perfect, but I had a great time. I read it while I was camping. It was fun too. Now, firstly, this one, Cytonic. I'm up to page 150, but it has been a struggle to get myself that far. I kind of want to DNF this because I'm like, is this a book for me? No, it's not. I feel like every single book in this series has been different, and I only liked the first one, to be honest. The second one, I thought, well, okay, maybe if the third one comes back around to what was in the first one, we'll be okay with the series. But no. It's like this book is kind of focused on her going somewhere to learn about her abilities. But it's so stupid, and I hate the bigger world. I really liked in the first book, Skyward, these humans struggling to survive, not understanding what was out there. But as we learn more about what's out there, no, I don't like it. As well, one thing I do feel like with Brandon Sanderson, and I wonder if this is part of just the fact that he's constantly pumping stories out, is it does feel like he reuses concepts between books quite a lot. There's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but it does mean if you're reading all his stuff, you're like, well, we've already heard about this idea before. And it kind of reminds me, there's this episode in Gilmore Girls where Rory's doing too many classes and her professor essentially says this essay was really great until it like skewed into economic theory and it just seemed like someone using the content from one of their classes for one of their other classes. And I feel like there's a part of this book, and maybe I can share a picture. There's a part of this book that reminds me a lot of the Stormlight archives. In fact, I could probably pull out a map from the Stormlight archives that, goodness, wouldn't it look a lot like this? I want him to be more original with his stories rather than pulling out a lot of the same ideas all the time. I don't mind if he's exploring ideas in new ways, interesting ways, but this is not interesting to me. There's a few tiny little pieces of the world that are interesting, but it's so buried in all this like mucking around, like filler. Like I don't care. I should DNF it. I don't know. I probably won't DNF it because I'm terrible at DNFing things. But I don't know. I thought Brandon Sanderson had this whole process where he gets like beta reader feedback. So did he not get the feedback that this isn't what people want? I've looked at the reviews. I am not the only one unhappy with the direction this book went in. Maybe this is going to be a series where I read it, I learn as much as I can, and then I go back and rewrite the whole series in my head. So disappointing because normally I love Brandon Sanderson stuff, but I just feel like some of his latest stuff has felt a little bit lacking in depth. Anyway, the other thing that I've been reading is House of Sky and Breath, which is probably making me less tolerant for Cytonic. So it just feels like everything that's happening in this is side plots, and the side plots aren't necessarily bad or uninteresting, but it doesn't make sense that we're focusing so much on the side plots, and it just means the story doesn't really feel like it has a direction. I think the main point of this book is meant to be about this rebellion. So there's people in this world who are oppressed because they're not as powerful, and there's this rebellion trying to fight against that, and we have characters main characters who were previously involved in rebellious acts. But also, most of the characters we're following are just very privileged, and so they're just mucking around. And there is a theme in here about the fact that they're very privileged and like them feeling guilty about the fact that they're not, that they're like having fun and playing games and getting drunk and having sex while these other people are really suffering, and should they feel guilty about that? But honestly, then we're just going to have chapters and chapters of like, oh, we need to have sex. And it's very frustrating because our main characters are very powerful, very influential at this point, or some of them are at least. But mostly, they don't seem to be doing anything smart. They did do some things. They were all stupid. Which, given in the first book, it was kind of set up that Bryce was really clever. It doesn't make any sense that in the second book, she hasn't done anything clever. And we just had a bit where she did something supposedly clever and didn't tell anyone about it like she didn't in the first book. However, in the first book, it made sense that she hadn't told anyone about it. In the second book, it doesn't make any sense why she hadn't told anyone about it. What she did wasn't really that clever, didn't really make a very big impact on the plot, just felt like a waste of time. And there was another character who honestly has some annoying things going on in his life, sure. And the thing he decided to get grumpy about was that his queen made him go and pick up rubbish. And he's like, oh, my life is so hard. Dude, you're just picking up rubbish. It ain't that bad. You know, in the first book, we had punishments like angels getting their wings ripped off. In the second book, he's picking up rubbish. Like, where are the stakes? What is the point? I knew I was going to be disappointed in this book. I knew it. But I just don't understand how Sarah J. Maas didn't understand that she needs something to actually happen in this book for it to be interesting. Did she think people just want the sex? And also, with the sex, in the beginning, there were scenes where they kind of decided to abstain, and so there was a lot of sexual tension. And that wasn't too bad. The sexual tension was okay. Now they're actually having sex, and it's so kind of boring and over the top, and I really hate it when they refer to women's body parts as her sex. What even is her sex? Sex is a verb, not a noun. Please don't label things sex. I don't know. It's just very ridiculous. But I guess I can see how some people would like the sex scenes, but honestly, everything else that's happening is stupid. I'm also remembering from Throne of Glass that Sarah J. Maas always does the thing where every single person has to be paired up into a couple, and I can already see people getting paired up into couples, and I'm like, can you just stop it? Not everybody needs to be paired up. It's not always going to work out that way, that everybody just finds their true love at the same time. Especially these people can live to be hundreds of years old, so you're really telling me they're all meeting their true loves right now? Really? Really? I don't think so. And honestly, there's about 4, I think, or 5, like political arranged marriages in this plot at the moment. Again, why everyone lives for hundreds of years? Why are they all suddenly having to get married right now? Why? Anyway, I can rant about this book for a long time, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that my reading at the moment is not going the best. But anyway, I've only got about 4 more hours of actual listening time on this, so if I do some housework stuff today and then go for a run, maybe I can finish it off and finish that frustration. I don't know about Cytonic. I actually looked to see if my library had the audiobook, but it does not. But I guess I'll read a little bit more and we'll see whether it gets a bit more of a direction or if it just keeps mucking around. My Fringe, honestly, I don't know what to do with my Fringe. It refuses to behave, really. I should have grown it out, but it did need trimming because it was a bit ruined. Anyway, this is not about my Fringe. We have had, to be honest, a couple of really crappy days here. It's been raining, and I've been feeling crappy too, but that did mean I spent a lot of time on the couch reading this, so I finished this off. It was not my favorite. This I feel like a lot of the world building is either ideas ripped off from Stormlight Archives, which, I mean, it's his own work, so I guess if you want to do that, that's fine, but I don't find it that exciting. And as well, like, just a little bit silly, and I guess it's targeted at a younger audience, but I felt like Skyward wasn't as young as this one was. Also, as I think I've said, we got a whole new cast of characters, we're in a whole new location, and that's exactly what happened in the second book, and it's so hard because we really like the characters from the first book, but you never get to see them, and it's really hard to get invested in these new characters because you know they're only going to be around for one book, and then maybe you only get a little bit of them in the next books. So like, what even is the point? And most of what was happening through here didn't really matter. There was kind of some interesting learnings about the world right at the end, but it was kind of like one character just telling us a bunch of stuff, even though it was kind of trying to show us through these memories, but they weren't good enough, so the other character still just had to tell us everything. And that's not the best way to get like shocking reveals. So I've ended up giving this 2 stars, which I feel like is a little bit harsh because it's not necessarily badly written. It's just not a story that I wanted to read after the first book having been so great. And I know Brandon Sanderson can do better than this. I just think he thinks he needs to do something very young for the young adult audience, and he wants something different out of this book series than I want out of it. And this, not for me, which is really disappointing because I really did love Skyward. And then, continuing the disappointment, and I don't even know why am I disappointed, because I knew I was going to be disappointed, right? So like, if you know you're going to be disappointed, then when it happens, you shouldn't be disappointed because that's what you expected. But House of Sky and Breath, I just never felt engaged in the story, even when some exciting things were happening in the end. The way it had been set up never made that ending feel like everything coming together. It just felt like more random shit happening the same way it had been for the whole book. And then I've heard so many people say that they didn't really like Sky and Breath, but the ending made them very excited for the next book. And briefly, I thought something was going to happen, and I was like, wow, if she goes there, then I'm super excited to explore this new place, this new thing. But she didn't go there. And then what did happen, I can see why some people would be super excited for that. That would be everything they would want. But I have no interest in this thing that's going to be in the next book. Like, no interest at all. So I guess I'm extra disappointed because now I don't even feel like I have any hope for the 3rd book. It's just like, oh, this series isn't for me, which I never really thought it was for me. But then I liked the 1st book so much that I thought maybe it might be for me, but it's not. So that's a very disappointing ending to this reading vlog, although I really shouldn't be surprised that that's where we ended up. Even with Cytonic, like a lot of what I'm disappointed about in this one was kind of starting to happen in Starsight, the 2nd book as well. So like, I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm still disappointed. Anyway, we're going to end the reading vlog here. A very up and down kind of reading vlog, but do let me know if you've read the Crescent City series or the Skyward series, how you're finding it. Have you been disappointed like me, or are you still full of hope because you haven't continued yet? Or maybe there's some people who like it. I have my doubts about whether they're being completely honest though. It's not very nice of me to say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.